Hello everyone. My name is Vasiliy Sabirov. I am lead analyst at Devtodev.com, and I'm very glad to welcome you today. I know that it's the end of the conference, so I'm glad that you are still here. But we will talk about analytics, so sorry, guys. I will tell how to integrate the analytical platform inside your game, how to do it, which events to track, and I hope that my speech will be useful for you anyhow. Yes. Well, there are different attitudes how to integrate the analytical platforms. A lot of companies prefer not to use analytics. They can get only the number of players and the number of total number of revenue. That's okay, but you can guess that I prefer another attitudes. Some companies use poor analytics. They forget that if you take the garbage in, you get the garbage out. And a lot of companies, really a lot of companies, have analytics, but they don't know what to do with them. Either they don't have the analyst who can understand the data, or they prefer to track only visits and money. And it's enough for some of the companies, but they cannot use the deeper analytics. And if you decide to integrate the analytical platform, there can be also two different attitudes. The first attitude is just to track sessions and payments. That's okay. That's enough to calculate the basic metrics such as ARPU, monthly active users, retention, LTV, and so on. But that's not enough to answer the advanced questions. And other companies prefer to track any user's action, any tap on the smartphone. And that's okay, but sometimes it's expensive. So you need to find the balance. You need to create the optimal structure of the events to track to answer all that question. And I'd like to tell you about the algorithm, how to do it. First of all, choose the key events. The key events from user. What you expect the user to do? I'm sure it's session, I'm sure it's payment, maybe it's finishing the level, it depends on your game. Maybe it's sharing with friends, maybe it's in-app purchase, so it's really up to you. So write it down on your list, the key events that you're really interested in. The next step is to determine the action, the events which precede and follow those key events. For example, if you take in-app purchase event, so which events can be before it? User goes to in-game shop, user opens the virtual item, user reads the description, press buy, and only after that confirm the payment. And which actions can be after the in-app purchase? Well, usually it's fight or battle or something. User want to try the new purchase. So you can add on your list another events which are precise or follow those key events that you selected on step one. And also I offer you to build the mental experiment to build the funnels before you'll build it in analytical platforms. Build the funnels in your mind. Which funnels will you use? How will you analyze it? Maybe you will add another events into the list after this step. The next step is the parameters. Parameters are any additional information that can describe the events that you send to the analytical platform. And some analytical platforms allow you to send the parameters with the events. For example, Devtodev allows up to 10 parameters for one event. And if we would take killing a boss event, so which fields can be as parameters. Maybe it's the name of the boss, maybe it's the health of character after the win, maybe it's number of steps. So any additional information can be added into that parameters. And it's important to distinguish the user parameters and the event parameters. For example, if we're talking about killing the boss event, you don't need to send the information about country, because it's the user information, but not the event information. So after 3 steps, you have the list of events with parameters to track. And on the next event, we will strike them out, because we will ask ourselves one very important question. Okay, we have integrated it. Okay, we will build the funnel. And what next? What can be changed here? Don't forget that analytics is not for analytics. And reports are not for reports or not for taking hours of analysts. That's all about decisions, and please don't forget about it. So please use only those events where you can make some actions, where you can change something. If you don't change it, then I'm not sure that you should try it. You should use these events, because you cannot change anything. So don't forget it, and strike out those events that you cannot change at this moment. And the next step, step 5, we suggest you to analyze the first session, the first time user experience in details. It's really important. We offer you to make the granularity of events during the first session. For example, the Devtodev reports called tutorial steps. It allows to build the funnels, which are more than 100 steps long. And they allow you to find the bottlenecks in the user experience, the bottlenecks in a player's journey. And why it's important? Because it's easy to fix. Sometimes you just need to change the text or change the color of the button, something. But that can significantly increase your user base by reducing the churn. So our suggestion is to detailize the first session, the first time user experience. And the next step is to distinguish basic events and custom events. What is basic events? Basic events is the language of the analytical platform. It's the logic of analytical platform. They provide you to build reports by one click. It's the reports out of the box. And the custom events are any other events. Of course, you can also build the reports with them, such reports as funnels, for example, but of course it will require a lot of action from you. And now I'd like to describe which basic events do we have in Devtodev, which allows us to build analytical platforms for games. Of course, we track sessions and payments. That's necessary information. We also track in-app purchases and resource changes as the basic events. So that's the basic events, that the standard methods for Devtodev. And so we can build reports about it. Also, we have about the structure of the game. We have such basic events as level up. So if a user increased his experience and he reached the next level, you can send the level up information to us. And the event that we have created for the match 3 games is the event about attempt to pass the level. If the user has attempt, it can be successful or unsuccessful, and some resources can change during this attempt. And that's also one of the basic events in Devtodev. And these basic events allows us to build the one-click reports for you. For example, this report is made for match 3 games, and for puzzle games, and so on. Here we calculate the efficiency of the game levels. So we can calculate the complexity as a proportion of successful to unsuccessful attempts for any location in the game. We can calculate the user distribution by location, the user's churn by this location, the audience, the money from every location. And we can also calculate the change of resources, change of virtual currency per successful or per unsuccessful attempt. That's very useful reports for any games where there are some levels, some locations. And this report is about free-to-play economics. If you have the free-to-play game, then I guess that you have the virtual currency in it. And this report allows you to see the economic balance of your game. We calculate the average spends, the average earn, the average amount of purchased virtual currency, and the money which is kept on the user's account by levels. So this report can be built by levels, and also you can build it not for the whole set of users, but for some specific user segment. For example, you can compare the economic balance for payers and for non-payers, and analyze when and why do payers start paying. And the next step, the final step of this algorithm, is testing and integration. It's really important to test the analytic integration, because otherwise you will have to spend 2 or 3 weeks more to fix something. And 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes it's the crucial period, especially on the early stages of the game, for example, on soft launch. So 2 games 2 weeks is a long time. So test and launch. Okay, so that's the algorithm. And now what to do with it? You have integrated the analytics, and what shall we do with those events? The advice one, of course, it's funnels. Funnels is the most important report for behavioral analytics. Here you can find the bottlenecks, the weak points, and the points of growth of your product. For example, here you can see that definitely we have the problem on the registration form, because only 33% of users finished it. So we need to increase its conversion. How to optimize the funnels? Our suggestion is to start with the beginning. If you start fixing the funnel with the first steps, sometimes it can increase the further conversion, the conversion on further steps. So it's better to start with the very beginning on the funnel. And don't forget that funnel optimization is ongoing process, is a constant process, unless that you have 100% conversion. But I guess that you don't have the 100% conversion. Advice 2, what can you do with those events? Sometimes it's more useful to use not funnels, but to manually look at the user's journey. How do users pass the events? So track the sequence of the user's events. It's like the difference between deduction and induction, like Sherlock Holmes. What shall you do? First of all, you need to choose a group of users to answer the question, and then you need literally look at the sequence of events for each user with your eyes. And you don't need a lot of users. Usually the 10 users are enough to create some insights, to create some hypotheses that you cannot create using funnels, for example. And I will show you a couple of cases. First case, now let's have a look at the funnel. 3 users started opening the photo menu, and 3 of them uploaded the picture. That's okay, that's 100% conversion. But now let's have a look at their sequence of the events. We can see that most of the users, all of the users, first open the right-click menu. They tried to find the uploaded button in the right-click menu. They couldn't find it there, so they have to go back and upload it manually. And in the case of 3 users, that's okay. But in the case of 100 users, that can lead to some % of user churn. And this type of analytics can allow you to find this problem. Another case is here. Let's have a look at the funnels. 3 users started level 1, 2 of them started level 2. That's pretty okay. We just lost 1 user somewhere. That's maybe not a problem. Now let's have a look at the sequence. We see that users need more than 1 attempt to pass the level 1. Level 1 should be easy, and but user 1 took 5 attempts to pass it. User 2 took 2 attempts, and user 3 took 6 unsuccessful attempts to pass the level 1. So maybe you need to make it simpler. And that's not the insight that you can create using only funnels. So you need to track the sequence of the events. Advice 3 is the limitations. Please always take it into notice that any analytical platform has its limitations. Some analytical platforms doesn't support the custom events. Some of platforms doesn't support the parameters. So you should know it when you select the analytical platform. And of course, there is a limitation such as price. Advice 4 is about parameters. If your analytical platform supports parameters in the events, you should use it. And here's the case. For example, you need to track killing the boss. And if you don't have parameters, you will need to send n different events to the analytical platform. But if you have it, you send only 1 event and you can change its parameter value. That's easier. And if you have like more than 2 parameters to track, then in the first case it will the multiplication. So it will be such a lot of custom events. But in the second case, when you have parameters, you will need to track only to use only 2 parameters of 1 event. The next advice is don't put away analytics for later. Our suggestion is that if you release your project on a soft launch, you should already have the analytics into it. Because soft launch requires the deeper analytics. It requires to make some early diagnosis, and you need analytics on this stage. And another advice is to duplicate the information into several analytics. Our suggestion is to use one paid analytical platform and one free analytical platform, because you need to compare it. You need to verify the data. And sometimes that's the very usual case when the game has two different analytical platforms and they have about 3% difference in retention values. And that's okay. That's really not a problem, because every analytical platform has its own rules to calculate those metrics, its own nuances to do it. But what can be a problem is that the metric have the different dynamics in different platforms, and that can be a problem. So that's why you need to have more than one to find the problems in the behavior of your users, to find the problems in the dynamics by days. So let me resume all that I said today. You need, first of all, to find the optimal structure of the events, and I provided to you with an algorithm how to do it. If your analytical platform supports parameters, you should use it. Use funnels as the most important behavioral analytical report. Follow users' logic, so sometimes you can create some insights when you see the sequence of the events by concrete user. Don't delay with the analytics. The analytics should be on soft launch. Our suggestion is that you need to use more than one analytical platform, and yes, don't forget that analytics is the ongoing process. So you should always work in it. You should always have somebody in your company who will optimize it, who will work with the analytics. And now let me tell about Devtodev. We are the analytical platform which is focused on games, so we know how to analyze the games, its structure, its purchases, its economy. We calculate both the basic metrics such as ARPU, MAU, and so on, and the game metrics. And we have SDK available for most of the gaming platforms. So if you need some help with analytics, I think we can help you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your retention.
Questions for Vasiliy? Do we have questions from the audience? Does this mic work? Oh, right now it works. Okay. Questions? Okay, I have one.
Yeah.
So, in case of premium games, do you think your approach to an integration of analytics is quite different from free-to-play titles, or it is like quite the same, just the funnels are different?
It's really the same. Of course, like analytics cannot make the boost of revenue for premium games. It can somehow just increase it by some percent. But anyway, the attitudes are the same. And we should always suggest even the premium games have the analytical platform, because I guess they want virality, they want organic traffic, and the organic traffic depends on a fun. In analytics, that's the process which works with fun, which works with the big places, and which allows you to optimize the game. Optimization is not only for the constant operating for the free-to-play games. That's always work for premium games also.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, we have one question right here.
Thank you for the presentation. And my question is, maybe you can give some interesting examples where some obvious things were not understood until the analytic looked deeper into it.
I didn't get the question, sorry.
Okay, so
What do you
maybe you
mean?
have some practical examples that can be just interesting to hear. For example, we had one case when we looked at reports from ITU, and we saw that they have different revenue than our reports and couldn't understand why. And then we saw that their reports were just for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. They're not reporting for the whole month as we look at the revenue. It was so silly, you know, but when we understood it, so then it made sense for us. So maybe you have some interesting situations or something that some obvious things were not understood until you looked through some analytical or until analytic was integrated in the game. Maybe there are simple things.
Well, I work in an analytical company, so I have those situations every day. But it's such a lot of situations that I cannot remember at least one now. For example, that will be not funny, but anyway, that's a good suggestion. Let's imagine that we don't have the segmentation. And if we track like such metrics as daily active users, let's take revenue. We take revenue without any segmentation. And if you work with the revenue only as the one metric, and let's say you have the stable dynamics. That's okay. It seems that there are not problems. But if you will segment it, for example, we can find that the structure of revenue changed during the time. For example, the percentage of users, of the new coming users decreased, and the percentage of older users increased. Why? Well, that's another question why. But anyway, that's a signal. And this is the signal that you cannot get if you don't use the simplest analytical tool such as segmentation. That's the case. And by the way, I have a lot of cases. If you're interested with the cases and with like in-game analytics, we have the educational course. It's free. I can recommend you to watch it. It's edu, like education.devtodev.com. It's the free analytical course. And it's hundreds of cases there. So yes, please write it down. We have this course in 2 languages, in Russian and in English. That's the good like source from the cases.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you, Vasiliy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.